Hi everyone and good morning. Thank you so much for joining us for our session, How to Boost Your Brand with User-Generated Content, with the lovely Amy Hobson, who's joining us again. As many of you will know, if you've joined us before, we are live. So please bear with us if we have any technical issues. We'll try to sort them out as soon as we possibly can. And also just let you know, on the sidebar on the side, we are leaving the chat open. So please feel free to say hello. We like to see that you're there. We'll also be, thank you so much. I can see you guys now. It also helps us not talk to ourselves a little bit. We'll also be doing some questions. So as with other sessions, we'll let Amy present the content, and then we'll got plenty of time at the end for Q&A. So please do use the questions tab. And also we will be doing some polls as well. So I've popped one in there at the moment. So we are going to be doing some more sessions with Social Bee. And also when things hopefully start to get a little bit back to normal for a lot of you, we want to know when would be the best time for us to plan these kind of sessions for the future. So if all of you could just pop along to the poll session at some time during the session, that's incredibly helpful for us for when we're planning this for the future. Right, with that said, I'm now going to hand over to Amy to start our session.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this morning's session. Possibly not quite the same weather as we've been experiencing the last couple of days. I know for me, yesterday it was absolutely glorious, 25 degrees, and then today to come up to the office, I actually had a jumper on at one point because it was a little bit chilly. So good old English weather, making sure that it keeps us on our toes, I think, more than anything else. But this morning we're going to be talking about user-generated content. So before we get started, just a little bit about who we are. If you've joined us for the other webinars, you'll know a little bit more about us, and you'll have met my colleagues Ed and Ellie. But these are some of the people that we've worked with in the past. Personally, out of these, I've trained Superdry, Boohoo in their careers, with Pyrex. I worked alongside Visa with the Great British High Street campaign that we did with them about 18 months ago. So you can see here, obviously, we have dealt with some fairly large, well-known kind of brand clients. But one of the things that we love about digital marketing at Social Bee is that it doesn't matter how big you are, the same principles apply. So it may be that you have deeper pockets, it may be that you have a bigger budget if you're a bigger company, but actually social media, digital marketing strategy applies in just the same way to smaller businesses as it does to big businesses. And believe me when I tell you that some big businesses still get it very wrong as well and are still learning just as much as some of the smaller ones are. So what will you leave with today? So this will, the presentation over the course of the next few slides, hopefully you'll have a better understanding of user-generated content, or UGC, what it is and why it's important, why you should be including it as part of your strategy and as part of your plan. And strategy plan is something that we'll talk about, or that certainly at Social Bee we talk about quite a lot, because we are very big believers that if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. It's important to have something in place with your plans, that you know who it is you want to talk to, who it is that you want to talk to in digital marketing, why it is you want to talk to them, who they are, what do they do, what are they interested in, what can you add value with along your customer journey. We'll also look at the different types of UGC, what they all are and how you can get them to work for you. And then we'll also have a look at, and this will kind of like be throughout the next kind of half hour, 40 minutes or so, how you can then use that UGC to build a relationship with your customers and boost your brand. And we're going to be looking at some of the examples that we've come across in our, or certainly my time within social media, within digital marketing, and over the course of the last few months. So before we talk about user-generated content, what I want to do is to just give you a quick reminder, and if you've been on the previous webinars, then this may look familiar to you. But this is to really kind of go back to basics with social media and to ask yourself, why do people follow brands? So if somebody starts following you as a business, as a brand, what is it that's actually in it for them? There is no social media platform, no platform at all that was specifically designed to sell on in terms of the social media arena. So all social media, the clue is in the name. It's the social that's actually more important. So that social element is the thing that differentiates this kind of marketing, this kind of media from anything else. And it's the social that's really important. It isn't just about selling, it's about building a relationship with your customers. And when you think about all of the reasons why people follow brands or may choose to follow you, also think about the reasons why you follow. So think about the things, think about the brands that you follow, think about if you're using social media, what comes up in your feeds. What kind of companies do you see time and time again? What is it about them that attracts you? What is it that they do that you find particularly enjoyable? Why is it that you keep coming back to them? And if they keep cropping up in your feed, it's because more than likely because you've already engaged with them. So think about, why do people follow brands? It might be to provide good or helpful feedback. So they may start following somebody and then leave them a recommendation or a review for a product that they've received already. It may be to make purchases. So they go there because they know that there's something in particular that they want to buy and that they can buy it through the social media platform. It may be to discover new products and services. So they know vaguely what it is what they want, but what they need to do is to find out more before they make a decision as to where it is that they're going to buy it from. It may be to complain. So somebody may come to your social media platform so that you can actually make a complaint, or to see if anybody else is complaining about the same thing. Yeah, or to leave a negative review. Any of those things, it may be for that. That somebody may start following you because they know that you do really good offers and promotions. They want to be the first to know about your Flash Friday sales. They want to be the first to know when your new catalogue's out. They want to be the first to know when you have new stock in or when you're offering a special discount. It may be that they want to learn about company updates and activities. It may be that they want to join a brand fan community. So very often, and think about groups on social media, so your Facebook groups, those kinds of places where you can hang out, where you can be a VIP customer, so you can join a fan community, so you can learn more about a specific brand at any given time. But the reality is that very few people go to social media to actually be sold to. So your buy now message very often falls short. Yeah, so if all you do is talk about buy now, we're great, this product is great, you're actually missing out on all of the other reasons that you can see here as to why people may come to you on social media and why they may want to start following you. So what is user-generated content? And you can see some of the things that we would class as UGC or user-generated content here. So on the left is hashtags. So this is where people are using certain hashtags to talk about a certain product. What they're really doing when they use that hashtag is highlighting that they are talking about a certain thing, whether that's a certain feeling, whether that's a certain way of doing things, whether that's a certain place, whether that's a certain brand, whether it's a careers page, whatever that is. You can use a hashtag to represent that you are talking about that. And you can encourage your users to use a certain hashtag to let you know that they're talking about you. We'll look at that in a little bit more detail when we look at hashtags. Then you've got video. So video, we know, is a really important tool within digital marketing right now. We know that more and more people are turning to video, particularly at the moment. For a lot of people, that's how they're getting their person-to-person fix almost, is through video. What video does is it allows us to put across a lot of messages. It allows us to do it in a much more animated way than pure text. It allows us to explore, to discover, to find out things. It allows us to see things in action. So if we're looking to buy something, I'd actually rather buy something that I know is going to work in the way that I want it to because I've seen somebody using it, than just buy off a blank recommendation. So video is a really important tool within our digital marketing anyway, but particularly within user-generated content. Can your audience create those videos for you? Absolutely, that's where the beauty lies. Then you've got things like product reviews. So this is where somebody will specifically use your product, they will specifically review it for you, whether that's written, whether that's a vlog, whether that's something that they share, whether that's something that they share on their own network, whether that's something that they do as part of a paid relationship or an unpaid relationship, they still have a really important value within digital marketing. You've then got things like check-ins. Don't underestimate the value of check-ins. In general, on social media, we are really nosy. So we like to see what people are doing, where they've gone, who they're with, what they've been doing while they've been there. So there's loads of really good ways to use check-ins. So encourage your customers to check in with you, encourage them to check in and make sure that you've got your location set up properly within things like Facebook so that they can check in with you. That can actually be really, really important. When my kids, it actually cropped up on a memory yesterday with Facebook, which is why I remembered it now. I went to a new climbing centre in the centre of Birmingham. I live in Solihull, and I went into a climbing centre in the centre of Birmingham. It was fairly new at the time, a place called Rock Up. rock on, rock up, one of those. I took all of my children and I went with one of my best friends who's got 5. I've got 4, so we had 9 kids between us. We checked in while we were there. We both kind of commented, you know, that we were out for the day together and that we were having fun. I posted a video of my then 12-year-old who was about 6 foot tall at the time. He's about 6'4" now. He's 15 now and he's about 6'4", climbing up something where he didn't need to use his hands and knees, but everybody else did, and kind of commented and said, you know, it's a really good, it can sometimes be really good to be tall. And I had 4 or 5 people comment and say, where are you? Haven't seen that. We checked in so that people were like, oh, you know, was it any good? I know of at least 6 people who went to that same place because they'd seen me and my friend there. Now, I'm not saying that's because I'm an influencer. It's not. It's because we're nosy and we want to see what people are doing, see where they are, and to see if we can do something like that similarly. And then you've got something like your recommendations. So these are where people can leave you reviews and recommendations across social media. They can email them to you. You can encourage people to do it in whatever way you want to. You can encourage them to do it on their Instagram accounts. Whatever that is, you should be encouraging them. And again, we'll look at some of these in more detail now. So why is it important? So when we're talking about UGC and user-generated content, what is it? Why do we need to do it? What's in it for us if we do it? These figures kind of almost speak for themselves, really. So less than half of consumers trust TV, magazine, or newspaper ads, but 70% do trust online reviews. So I can sit here all day and tell you how great we are as a company at social media, all of the different things that we do, all of the things that we do to help our clients, how great we are, what results we've got, all of those things. I can do that all day. But will you believe me? Or will you believe a review more? So if somebody else came along and said, oh, Amy's amazing, we've worked with her, she's made such a difference to our business, you know, completely turned our digital marketing around, would you believe them or would you believe me? The chances are you'll believe them more because we do trust online reviews. And if it's video where somebody can actually see people doing that, even better. Email click-through rates increased by 73% when UGC is integrated. What that basically means is that we're really nosy. So what we want to be able to do is to be able to see other people using those products, to see other people using a certain brand, how people style stuff, particularly from a fashion perspective, that can be really useful. So how it can be styled, how it can be worn, how it will look if I'm not the same size as the person who's physically selling it, the model. So email click-through rates increase because we're interested in user-generated content. And visitors to websites with integrated UGC galleries spend 90% more time on the site, which just really reinforces how nosy we are. We want to be able to see ourselves doing something, and part of that is because we want to see what other people are doing. We don't necessarily want to be a carbon copy of everybody. We don't want to buy exactly the same, but we want to see how other people are using something. We want to see how other people are enjoying it, what they're getting out of it, and whether or not that fits us. When you sell a product, the most important thing for you to be able to do is for you to be able to help the customer to see themselves with that product. Why do they need it? How is it going to make a difference? What is it going to change for them? Yeah, why is it that they need it? Is it just because they think it looks really pretty? Fantastic, but you need to understand that. We want to be able to see ourselves in a position. We want to be able to see ourselves in a environment where we're using a certain product. We want to be able to buy into that lifestyle if it's something like a lifestyle product. Yeah, I buy lots of things for my house on the basis that they're going to look nice in my house. My house is very different to the things that I see, but I want to be able to see that in my mind as to how that's going to work with my color scheme, how that's going to work with the way that I've got my lounge, how it's going to work in a bedroom. Yeah, that's where the real beauty of user-generated content comes, because it's not just you telling me that I can do that, but somebody like me or somebody who I perceive to be like me who can do that. So let's have a look at some of those UGC points in a little bit more detail. So first off is hashtags. Now, one of the really important things with hashtags is to make sure that you develop a hashtag strategy. So make sure that you research your hashtags, make sure that you look for information, make sure if you are using hashtags that you check them regularly to see how other people are using them. Make sure that you're using them appropriately as well. So I wouldn't suggest that you use hashtags on Facebook, but on Twitter, on Instagram, and on LinkedIn increasingly as well nowadays. You can use hashtags. They should, in fact, be part of your strategy, but not so much for Facebook. As part of that strategy, make sure that you do lots of research. So look to see who's using them. How are they using them? When you're creating new hashtags, make sure that they don't create extra words in the middle. Yeah, make sure obviously when you put words side by side, they can sometimes make new words. Yeah, there's lots of examples of how that's gone horribly wrong. I'm not going to go into those now. Google it if you don't believe me. There are lots of them, but I'm sure some of you will find them entertaining. But make sure that you are using something that makes sense, that can still be easily read, even if it is all words put together. You still need it to be recognizable. And think about the ones that are going to be more relevant for certain types of content. So you shouldn't just cut and paste your hashtags all of the time. So don't just use the same hashtags in the same order and cut and paste them in. The platforms pick up on that, particularly Instagram. So you should be mixing them up. You should be adding some natively. Yes, you can use the same hashtags. So you should always be using one or two of your own, but the rest should really be more specific for what it is that you're talking about. Yeah, so add 2 or 3 that are tailored specifically for the content that you're sharing on Instagram, for example. A couple that are about you, yeah, so are specifically about you and about your business and are your hashtags, if you like. And then pick a couple of others that are more general about what it is that you do. So, you know, if you sell handcrafted, for example, then you can use a handcrafted hashtag. But make sure that you are swapping those around. There are a couple of really useful free tools that you can use for hashtags. One of them is called HishHash, HISHHASH. So it's a free app that you can use. I think it's a freemium one, so you can pay for it as well, but you don't have to use it. So you can mix them up. You can categorize them for your different products. And if you're using the app, if you're using the HishHash app, you can select 2 or 3, you can mix them up, and then it automatically copies it to your clipboard so that you can then copy them into Instagram all in one go. So when you're looking at hashtags, look for a mix of popular ones and more niche ones. You should be using both. Look for existing use. So how are people using certain brand names? If you're a reseller of certain brand names, are you allowed to use those hashtags or not? Double check first to make sure that you are. So look for brand names, look for locations. How are people using them for check-ins to say that they're with you, that they've checked in with you? One of the hashtags that I also run a networking group for women, and one of the hashtags that we encourage them to use is hashtag networking with connections, because that's us. Yeah, so we encourage our members and our attendees to use our hashtag, whether that's on Twitter or whether that's on Instagram, to say that they've been and that they've enjoyed it, and to use that hashtag networking with connections. Showcase hashtags across all of your digital, so try and maintain some consistency. And even if you're not going to use them on Facebook, which Facebook is only very limited really in terms of hashtags, they don't sit naturally within Facebook language, make sure that you are still showcasing them, and make sure that they're using them in your physical presence as well. So encourage people to use your hashtags by giving them in your physical presence, and encourage them to use your hashtag and then showcase the best ones. Give them a reason to do it. So give them a reason to use your specific hashtag, and then for you to collect them together. So to do a roundup, to say, you know, the best 5 outfits using this hashtag will be showcased. People want to do that, and if they're willing to use that hashtag to do that, they definitely want to be seen and they want to be mentioned. And bear in mind as well that some people will follow a specific hashtag. So if there's a hashtag that is particularly important to them, you can follow it. You can, so for example, one of my hashtags on Instagram is hashtag organized life. I'm a single mum of 4 kids. Yeah, my life is not organized, but I'd like it to be. And I'm always buying stuff that's going to help me try and organize my life. Yeah, my timing is organized, but the rest of it, I've got 4 boys. Yeah, enough said, really. They're not natural organizers. They're not natural tidiers. They're not natural cleaners. They're learning, and we're getting there together. But hashtag organized life is what I follow to find inspiration about organizing my office, organizing my home, organizing storage, all those kinds of things. So you do and can follow hashtags. So this, for example, here is hashtag F21XMe. For those of you who don't know, that's linked to Forever 21, the fashion brand. So Forever 21 by me, they encourage their bloggers, their vloggers, their influencers to use that hashtag to make them more visible across social media, on Instagram in particular. And then they collate those together as part of their strategy. And then you've got as well hashtag my loved robe. Again, slightly different, not as many posts as you can see, the huge difference in posts, but a business who is still using it, encouraging again their bloggers, their influencers to keep using it, to keep showcasing it, to keep showcasing their products so people can see how it would be if they were using them themselves. And this is a slightly wider one as well. So not just necessarily about a particular product, but something a little bit wider. So this is hashtag Saks style. So this is Saks, the American retailer, and they want to, they encourage you to use that hashtag across all of them and then monitor it. They want you to kind of showcase who you are using Saks style, so items that you've purchased from Saks. So tag hashtag Saks style so everyone can shop your look. And then if you go to their website, saks.com/Saks style, they have a web page dedicated to the best of those that they find through. And you can see obviously they've got thousands of people who have been posting it, and then they then use that as a showcase. They also use it to potentially contact influencers, bloggers, to identify those people who've maybe got a bigger audience that they can maybe collaborate with as well. So reviews, ratings, and recommendations. One of the big things with any of these three is you need to be friendly and ask people. You'll always get some people who are willing to write you a review. I'm one of those people. Yeah, I'm always happy to write people reviews. I sometimes forget. Yeah, it's as simple as that. Sometimes I need a gentle nudge, a gentle reminder that actually somebody is waiting for it. This could be really helpful, particularly to small businesses. So be friendly and ask people to do it. If they say no, it doesn't matter, but at least you've asked, and just ask them politely. If you post out products, a little card inside, they don't cost very much money, but a little card inside that says, please send us your review, please email. If you have a problem, please contact us. If you have a review, please tell everybody else. Yeah, if you love it, please tell everybody else for us. The vast majority of us as purchasers understand that for small businesses that can be really, really important, and can also, so you know, you can ask people to share a product, to share a photo using that product. You can ask people to email it to you. It doesn't matter how you get it, but asking people to do it where your audience hang out, or as you can see here, where you can repurpose it. So if somebody sends you an email to say how amazing it's been, if somebody talks to you in store, ask them if they'd go online and write you a review, whether you're on Facebook or Instagram, wherever that is, would they write you a recommendation? Google My Business, you can send them a link and ask them to do it that way. So always be prepared to ask, always be prepared to repurpose. One of the businesses that I've come across that does this quite well is a company called Beauty and the Boutique, online retailer for beauty products, very active in terms of social media, very active in terms of the video content, how-tos, DIY tutorials, all that kind of thing, you know, how to get the perfect eye flick, you know, all that kind of material that you'd expect. But I've ordered from her. I've ordered from her a couple of times. I have bought into that whole, oh, that looks really easy to use. Oh, I need that. There was I've always been a very firm choice on my mascara, but I have now switched mascara based on one of her recommendations and one of her videos. And I've used the other mascara, I won't give you names, obviously, but I'd used that other mascara for probably a decade. So to get me to switch was actually quite a big deal. But when you get the parcel, you open it up, it's nicely wrapped. It's got a little pack of sweeties in there normally. And then there's a little thing to say, please share it. Please use this hashtag. Please mention us. Asking people to kind of get involved and to create that user-generated content for her. In terms of reviews, ratings, and recommendations, always make sure that you respond, both to positives and to negatives. Now, if something is abusive, if it's using inappropriate language, if it's using, you know, racist, anything like that, then feel free to delete it or to request it to be deleted. If it's clearly something that is not meant for you, I've got a friend who's got a local business who recently received a review from somebody who has never used her service and admitted he'd never used her service, and she has been able to successfully appeal getting it removed. But always respond to both positive and negative. Just because somebody is complaining doesn't mean that they're a lost customer, but you could lose more customers if you don't respond to them. Yeah, so always be seen to respond. You can always incentivize your customers to give you referrals as well. So there's no reason why you can't let people know that if they give you a referral, you'll give them a 10% discount. or if they refer 5 friends, they get £10 to spend. So referrals can be a really good way of increasing your reach by asking your customers to share their positive experiences with everybody else for you. Make it easy for them to review your business online as well. So if somebody orders from you, include in a follow-up email a link to do it, so that you make it as easy as possible, as few clicks as possible to be able to do it. People will very often forget. Yeah, so a gentle reminder to do it isn't a problem. I recently purchased from an online retailer. I received the product. The next day I had a message to say, with a really great instructional video as to how to put it together. It was something that I needed to assemble. It was a gift for somebody, saying, we know that you've purchased this. We hope everything's okay. If it's not, please contact us. Here's an instruction. Here's a video that you may find useful. So kind of show me how to get the best out of it, which was brilliant. The next day, I then received an email just asking me, would it be possible for me to take 2 minutes to complete an online recommendation with a link to do it? And I did it. Yeah, it was just something, but I would have forgotten. I definitely would have forgotten without that reminder. So you can also, if you've got a bricks and mortar store, you can also set up something like a comments book. So they work really well for small independents, where you can have a comment book where people can leave comments either at the checkout desk, so they can do it while you're wrapping up their product. You can just ask them, would they mind leaving you a recommendation? But just make sure if you are going to use that online, that they're happy for you to do that. Now, you can anonymize it. You can say to people, you know, you can post something and say, no, this was Gemma from Solihull, so they don't know people's names. It could be that it's just G from the Midlands. Yeah, so it's really anonymous. But obviously, if there is a name and somebody's willing to give your name and to share a name, then that can add a little bit more value to it. And with things like reviews, this is the example on the left is this is a Beauty in the Boutique that I talked about. This is where somebody's used their products. You can see the before and after shots. What they've then done is they've then repurposed that to say, Katie showed me how. They've mentioned in the comments the person who's actually done it. So the lady that you can see there who's done it, and asked for, you know, for you to do something similar. If you want to share yours, you could be showcased, you could be highlighted, all those kinds of things. And then you can see here as well with Birchbox. So Birchbox are a subscription service that you can you subscribe to every month. You get normally you get maybe 1 full-size product or 2 full-size products. It's a fairly as you would expect from a subscription service, there's lots of sample size products in there as well, and then you can buy those from their website if you choose to. And this is just somebody who's saying, we love seeing pages of your boxes each month. They always come in a box. It's normally themed. You obviously can keep all the boxes. They showcase how you can reuse the boxes, give you ideas for storage, all those kinds of things. And then what a great delivery today, Birchbox. This is by far my favorite. So just quoting somebody and mentioning them in the comments as well. And with recommendations where you're using something like Google, these can be a really great way of driving traffic through to you. So if you've got your customers who you know are going to come in off the streets, if you've got people who are you know, likely to be going past, or people who are likely to be Googling for X near me. Yeah, so Italian restaurants near me, gift shops near me, men's retailer near me, whatever that is, then something like Google can work really well and can help people to choose you over somebody else. So make sure that if you've got bricks and mortar, that you've got the Google My Business set up. Absolutely. Even if you're online, you should still have this set up. It increases your visibility. It increases your, you can use it for events now as well. So you can post events. So if you're reopening soon, or if you're going to be having a sale, you can put offers on there. There's all kinds of different things that you can do within Google My Business. But as part of that, you can also get reviews, and you can send a link to somebody for them to review on your Google page. So you can make it nice and easy for them as well. So you can see on here, wonderful gem of a place. Shop is a wonderful experience, full of all these great about our island. Highly recommend anyone visits. I have been to this place. It was a little while ago now when I was in the Isle of Wight a couple of years ago. And it's a fantastic little shop. So definitely worth a visit if you are ever on the island. But those reviews can make a difference in your decision as to where you go as a customer. Yeah, so making sure that you've got those, and where possible, replying to those as well. So if somebody takes the time to say a wonderful gem of a place, don't just give a thumbs up. Yeah, that doesn't work in real life. You wouldn't do that in real life, so don't do that online. Try and reply to them as well and if somebody complains, say to them, I'm really sorry that you've had that experience. We'd love to talk to you about it more. Please contact us, or please email your contact details to here, or DM us, wherever it is that you're on, and ask people so that you can drive it offline, but you should always acknowledge it. And with things like ratings, now I deal with a lot of smaller businesses. I'm very active on the social media channels, as you would expect. I'm sure my children think I just play around on Facebook all day, but obviously I don't. I'm always looking at clients I've worked with. I'm always looking for ideas. I'm looking to see who does things well. I'm very nosy in that sense, but I also do a lot of these kinds of presentations where I like to have really good, fresh examples of people who are doing it well. And in terms of ratings, yeah, so with ratings, you can see here these are a couple of small businesses, small, fairly local businesses. You've got Peony and Mint on the right-hand side, who I came across at an NEC Christmas fair and purchased from them. And they're a fairly local business. I think they're based in Sutton Coldfield. But you can see here, not only have they kind of gone back and said, thank you so much for the review and order, Kate. And, being able to help, it was a real pleasure helping you to choose the right pair. And then somebody else has then commented and said, that's what I need help with, the right pair for my face shape and colouring. And then they've replied again saying, I've messaged you directly, I can help with this, is basically what they're saying. So that review or recommendation that rating has led to a potential new customer. Yeah, because if somebody rates it, if somebody gives you a rating, then the chances are their audience, their community will be able to see that. Then you can see here on the left, this is an example from a local artist, Phaedra Elson from Pipistrel Art, who's brilliant. And you can see here again, it's, thank you so much. It was a pleasure. I hope my fellow Taurian will have a lovely birthday. So she's always very personal in the way that she goes back. She understands and works with her customers. And this is where smaller independent businesses can be more effective in this way, because they can establish that personal relationship with somebody that they can then use as a powerful tool when it comes to those kinds of things. If I'm doing research and I'm looking to see where I'm going to buy from, am I going to buy from somebody who's got some really good ratings and looks like they really care about their customers, or am I going to go to somebody faceless? The chances are I'm going to go to the person who looks like they're doing the best that they can and are working with their customers and have a relationship with their customers, because that is what's going to appeal to me. There are obviously other types of user-generated content as well, and we mentioned some of these earlier, but just to kind of go through a couple of these now. So check-ins, always encourage your customers to check in at your physical locations. If you're running events, ask them to check in at the event as well. Again, we're really, really nosy. The vast majority of us on social media are quite voyeuristic. So we want to see what our friends are doing and our family are doing, our community are doing. We want to know where they're going, what they're doing, because we're just nosy. Yeah, and that's male and female. This isn't just women. This is men, and men just as much as it is women. In fact, my partner is on Facebook. He never contributes at all, but he's always showing me things that other people have done, and so he's completely nosy. But those check-ins allow people to see what other people are doing, and it may be something of interest to them. Again, with the networking group that we run, we encourage our attendees to check in, where they feel comfortable to do so. It's not mandatory, obviously, but we encourage people to check in, and we know that we've then gained other members and we've gained other attendees to our other network meetings on the back of somebody checking in and saying that they've had a great morning with us. Customer use, so always kind of looking for videos. Encourage your customers to create their own videos. Create videos of product reveals, of if somebody is reviewing something, ask them to film it right from the very start for you, so they can see how lovely the packaging is, how well it's packaged inside, how safe it is if it's something that's breakable, for example, which may put somebody off wanting to order something online. Encourage people when they get home to share their look. Yeah, so if it's something that they've bought from you, to share their look in terms of fashion, their look, how it looks in their house, if it's homeware accessories. There's lots of different ways that you can get people to create video content for you. It doesn't need to be long. It doesn't need to be massive. It just needs to be a short 25, 30-second video is all you need. Obviously, you can work with influencers. So this is where they really get paid normally. Not all influencers are paid, but they can get paid to spread your message by using your hashtag, by mentioning you for a product that they're using or that they're reviewing for you. So you can work with influencers to spread your message. Now, not all of them are paid. They don't have to be paid. And if you are going to work with influencers, and that's a whole of the training, but if you do want to work with influencers, then always bear in mind that you need to make sure that you have an aligned audience. Yeah, so always make sure that anybody who approaches you to be an influencer for you because they love your products, make sure that their audience matches your audience. So a really good example of a really good collaboration is Neil's Yard Remedies with Deliciously Ella. So Deliciously Ella, very well-known blogger, vegan, natural, organic, no chemicals. It kind of revolutionized her life when she realized that her diet was actually making her incredibly ill. So she creates her own products now, but she also did a collaboration with Neil's Yard, who are known for organic, vegan, no pesticides, no chemicals. So actually the people who had an interest in her were likely to have an interest in Neil's Yard as well. Host an event, either virtual nowadays, obviously, or when we're hopefully at the other side of lockdown and we can do it safely in real life. Ask people to check in, hashtags, incentivize people to check in. So everybody who checks in will get a 10% discount or 5% discount on the night, or everybody who checks in will get a raffle ticket for a hamper, whatever it is that you're running. But when you host an event, use a hashtag, get people to check in with you. So to do that, you'd need to be able to set that up as an actual event. So on Facebook, for example, you'd set it up as an event and encourage people to check into it on Facebook. But, and this is a really, really big but, all of the user-generated content in the world isn't going to do you any good whatsoever if you're not involved in it yourself and if you're not active. So there is no point in encouraging your customers to write you reviews if you're then not sharing that, if you're not commenting, if you're not replying, if you're not doing all of those things. It never fails to amaze me when I'm working with either big or small businesses, when I go to their ratings pages, when I go to their comments, I look through their comments, somebody's written a really positive, great comment about a product or about a service, and the only thing that they've gone back with is a thumbs up. Or if they're really lucky, a heart. Yeah, so love. But no response, no thank you, no, oh, that's really sweet of you to say, no, none of that gets involved. Now, if somebody came up to you in real life and said to you, I love your store, it's amazing, it's always my go-to place for gifts because you always have such an amazing range, you know, I've told all my friends about you, you know, how's it going? You'd chat to them. You wouldn't give them a thumbs up and then walk away. You certainly wouldn't expect them to come back into the shop if that's how they'd been treated. So don't treat people like that online. Yeah, so from a user perspective, that activity, that conversation is really important. But from a platform point of view, that's really important as well, because you need to be seen to be responsive. So if somebody leaves you a recommendation, responding is a good sign for those algorithms. Yeah, those pesky algorithms, shall we say. If somebody leaves you a comment or somebody comments, absolutely, again, brilliant way of being able to start a conversation with somebody. Yeah, if you just give them a thumbs up, they may just dismiss you just as much as they feel dismissed. So having that conversation, now that takes time, that takes activity, you need to monitor your notifications, you need to do all of those things, of course you do. But that doesn't mean that it isn't important, because it absolutely is. And if all of your audience are creating lots of user-generated content for you and you're doing all of that right, but your social media presence itself is out of date, it's not active, it's not being changed, it's not being updated, the same with your website. So if you're showcasing user-generated content from September of last year and we're now in June, that makes you look a little bit outdated. Absolutely it does. Yeah, and in terms of fashions, in terms of trends, in terms of all of those things, that changes. So you need to make sure that you're showcasing the changes, showcasing your brands. And there's nothing worse than seeing somebody using something and thinking, wow, that looks amazing. Then going to somebody and finding that actually they don't stock it anymore. They haven't stocked it in months, but you've seen a video somewhere that was up to date and it was current in their existing catalogue. It just doesn't look right. So you have to be active, you have to be on top of it, you have to be monitoring all of your notifications. Yeah, and you have to enjoy it. I know that social media can be one extra thing that's got to be done, particularly if you're a smaller independent where you are stock control, your purchaser, your cleaner, your tea maker, your everything and all of those things together. But try and enjoy it, because that will make a difference in how you come across, if nothing else. So that's it for in terms of the learning part. Obviously, I can see the questions are coming in, so I'm happy to answer questions in a couple of minutes. In terms of next steps, by all means, if you're interested in finding out more about what we do, hints and tips, all those kinds of things, our newsletter is a good place to start. We do digital roundups. We look at certain areas. So we've recently done a blog on retail, for example. So socialbee.co.uk/newsletter if you want to sign up for that. We've also got a special offer where we are offering 5 spaces for 30 minutes digital marketing consultancy session. Now, whether you want to use this for to look at your social media plan, to audit your website, to rejuvenate your strategy, or you've just got a question that you need an answer to because you can't figure it out yourself, then you can use that for this, for any or all of those things. And what we'll do is, if you are accepted as one of those 5, you get matched up with somebody who's got the right expertise within our business to be able to help you. It's socialbee.co.uk/consultancy. There is a sign-up form. We have been doing it on a first-come, first-served basis, but we've changed that. So you register, and then towards the end of the day, we will pick 5 people at random to receive one of those. So it's not just a case of who's quickest off the mark. We're also offering some courses and other support for small businesses. So if you are a small business and you want to find out more about how we can help through either consultancy or real actionable training that allows you to not just find out what you need to be doing, but actually implement that as well, which is just as important, then you can go to socialbee.co.uk/small-business. So you can see that on there. And we've also launched a podcast. So this is something that we were working on before lockdown, but it's something that we've definitely been using a lot more. So by all means, if you want to find out more, we did one recently with Zach's restaurants based in Norwich. We've done one on different themes, on how to change your social media, the things that you could be doing now to digital marketing, all kinds of different topics that we've got on there. So that's socialbee.co.uk/podcast. And if anyone's got any questions, or Suze, if you want to pass on some of those, I will do my best to answer.
Yeah, well, we've had quite a lot of questions. I've segmented them up a little bit, and we should hopefully get through most of them. Okay. It won't surprise you, we've had a few questions around hashtags, so okay. I'm going to run through them. Sophie asked a really good question. She said, how many hashtags would you suggest using on Instagram? They use 30, but they're quite conscious it looks a little bit unsightly. Any tips for how you manage that hashtag?
Yeah, I wouldn't use up to 30, I'll be honest with you. I know that you can, but if you do any research on hashtags, what you'll probably find is that hashtags or posts on Instagram with between 8 and 10 actually receive higher engagement. The other reason why I would avoid 30 as well is that personally, I think it would be a challenge to come up with 30 relevant hashtags. And your hashtags should always be relevant to that particular image. So if you're using ones, for example, with hashtag love, which has literally billions of users, then you're highly unlikely to be heard, and it's a bit of a wasted hashtag. You would be better off concentrating on between 8 and 10, making them really relevant to the content that you're putting out there. So making, and I would normally say a couple for you, so ones that are related to your business specifically, including your business name, ideally, a couple that are specifically about that image, so that particular product, that particular service, whatever that is, but making them very specific to that. And then kind of 2 or 3 that are slightly more generic. So kind of 2 or 3 of each of those and mix it up. So in terms of generic, like, you know, so for example, as I said earlier, if you make handmade products, hashtag handmade, for example, would be one that you could use for that. So I would reduce down the number and experiment with it a little bit. Reduce down the number. Does it increase your engagement rates? The other thing with 30 hashtags is, 1, it looks a little bit messy. 2, does anyone actually read through 30 hashtags? I would argue that probably not. And you're not, anything that you should do, anything that you do on social media should have a purpose to it. And if you're just putting them in there because you can, and you can fill 30, then I would say to you, reduce those down, make them more relevant to the specific post or the specific project that it is that you're talking about. And social media is all about experimentation. So reduce down the number of hashtags, see what happens in terms of engagement. Do you get more engagement? Do you get less engagement? If you're getting less, increase it a little bit, increase it to say 12. does that make any difference? Reduce it. Does that make any difference? So kind of experiment with it rather than just saying, well, we can use 30, so let's use all 30. And I have ran that challenge in training sessions where I've said to people, here's an image, I want you to come up with 30 relevant hashtags to that image, and you tend to go into very generic ones which won't do you any good.
On the hashtag point, so Sarah wants to know if there's a way to find out which hashtag she should be using. So for example, she has a sweetener chocolate shop. How can she find out which hashtags she should be using? Is it trial and error, or are there tools out there that can help?
There are different tools out there. So there's hashtagify.me, which is hashtag ify.me. There are different tools like that are out there as well. But to be honest with you, one of the easiest ways to start is to just Google. So Google top 100 hashtags for X, for whatever industry, for whatever product, and you'll get lots of different ones come up. And then experiment with them and do a little bit of research in them. So if there's some that jump out at you, put them into your different platforms. So put them into Instagram. Who's using it? How are they using it? How many users is it getting? Realistically, if it's getting 1.4 million users, you're unlikely to be heard in that arena, particularly if you're a small business, unless you've got a really large following. So it's important to kind of look at the ones that are less than that, maybe less than about 10,000-ish, and experiment with those. But it is all about experimentation, because even if you find something that gives you that data, you don't know if it's going to work for you until you actually do it, and then until you actually use it. Tools like HishHash can help in terms of arranging them and making them more accessible so that you don't have to type them in every single time. And they will mix them up for you as well, so you can select different ones and mix them up. So you could have a category that's yours, one that's for a certain type of product, one that's for a certain color, for example, depending on what it is that you're selling. But yeah, there's no, or you know, if anybody's got one and they want to put it in the chat that works particularly well for them, there isn't one that really stands out for me as making a lot easier than good old-fashioned legwork and research.
Yeah, I think we often hope that there's a tool out there you can just solve a problem or help straight away, but often it is trial and error. And I suppose that goes on to another point around, if hashtags aren't working and you're not getting enough traffic or reach, it's probably time to start to use some of these tools and really experiment on the tags that you're using.
Yeah, review them and have a look. Click through yourself. So kind of spend half an hour picking your hashtags out, click through who else is using them, what content are they getting. Look at what your competitors are using as well. I'm not a big believer in concentrating all of your efforts on your competitors, because you should do you and let them be them. But if you really need a steer, look and see what they're getting really good engagement with. What hashtags are they using on those posts, and see if that makes a difference. Yeah,
it's just come up in chat and I've had it in questions as well, but how do you feel about hashtags in comments?
There's no evidence that putting them in the comment instead of in your message, so instead of in your actual post on Instagram, putting it in the first comment, there is no actual evidence that says that works better than anything else. Anecdotally, some people say that it does. Anecdotally, some people say that it doesn't. The thing is to remember as well is that where you're trying to do something that kind of you're trying to circumvent the algorithm, so where you're trying to make yourself more visible by doing something a little bit different, guess what? That algorithm spots that. Yeah, so it knows that that's the case. I have read some articles. I don't know if this is true or not. You never really know until one of the big platforms confirms it for you. But there is some, well, in exactly the same way, anecdotally, where some people are saying that actually comments in the hashtags in the first comment are now being ignored by the algorithm because they know that that's what you're trying to do. So there's no, and it was something that kind of started a little while ago, but experiment with it. If it works for you, fantastic. But there's no hard data that suggests it does work.
Okay, great. There's an interesting question here from Lynn, and she asked it right at the early, I think within about 2 minutes of starting, so I think this is quite important to her. With GDP in mind, is it okay to reach out to customers after they've purchased products on their website for a review if they're using the product? Is it okay for me to use their email address to contact them?
Yes, there's no reason why not. When somebody purchases from your website and you collect their email address, what I'd normally suggest is that you have something in there that says, or give them an opt-in, for example, for a newsletter. So you can't auto-subscribe them, but you can say to them, do you want to subscribe to our newsletter, and let the people know what's in it for them. So whether that's special promotions, offers, all those kinds of things. So have that as an opt-in definitely as part of that sale process. If somebody has purchased something from you, yeah, even if they've said no, they don't, or they haven't opted into the newsletter, there's still a legitimate interest there. So there's absolutely there's no reason why you can't then contact them and email them and say to them, we know that you purchased this product. We hope that you love it as much as we do. Please provide a review. You know, it would be really helpful for us as a small business to provide a review and then give them a link. There's absolutely nothing. What I would suggest is that if somebody still doesn't do it, there's a line that you don't want to cross in terms of bombarding them. But there is a definite legitimate interest in that. And that's one of the things with GDPR is maintaining that you have that legitimate interest and that you've collected that email kind of knowingly. So they've given you that email address knowing that you could potentially use it to contact them. But even if they decide not to sign up for the newsletter, you could still do that.
Okay, great. We've got a few questions on reviews, and I think a lot of them are more how-to questions. Okay. So the first one is, how would you use an email review? Would you put that straight onto the website? Would you put that onto social? What would you say is the best thing to do if somebody emails you with a really great text review?
If somebody comes back to me with an email review, what I would normally do, one is I would go back to them straight away. Thank you, that was really, really helpful. And kind of, you know, I hope you don't mind, but I'm going to use this on social media. Would you prefer me to keep it anonymous? Yeah. So if somebody's contacted you by email, it may be that that's just because they don't use social media very much. It's their natural place to do it, natural place to send it. So I would always go back to them and make sure that they're happy with that. Yeah. And most people don't have a problem with it. If they're then happy with that, it's up to you where you feel it would have the most impact. Yeah, so if you've got a product page on a website, yeah, and it's specifically related to how great that specific product is, then I would probably put it on there. If it's something that relates to service, so it's slightly more generic, you know, how quickly it arrived, how lovely the parcel was, how much it's been, how well received it's been, and it's a little bit more generic, then I would probably put that on one of my other pages on my website, or repurpose it and use it as a quote on social media. So just as a tile on social media, you know, we always love hearing from our customers, you know, this is made our Friday, whatever that is, you know, you can do all kinds of things with it in terms of social media. What you can't then obviously do is cut and paste that into a review on Facebook. They would need to do that for you, and the same with Google for that. But yes, make it as visible as you can. But think about it in terms of, well, where would my customers find this most useful? So if somebody is, if it's about service, put it somewhere more prominent, like on a homepage or something like that. If it's product based, then include it as part of your product page, potentially. Or if you're talking about a specific product, or if you've got a week where you're talking about certain products, include it in your content, then moving it forward.
Okay. What would you say is and I think, again, this is going to be a tools question, but what is the easiest way to help customers write reviews online? Is there a tool that can post it straight away? Is there a kind of something that you would go to that helps collect those?
There isn't a tool that I'm aware of, unless you're using something like Trustpilot or something like that, where you can use that to obviously collect reviews and ask people to recommend. There isn't a specific tool that I'm aware of. If you're running, for example, your business on Facebook, there's no reason why you can't message a customer. So if somebody's messaged you about a certain product, I bought something through Facebook yesterday. As you can see, I buy quite a lot at the moment, particularly it's lockdown life. I can't go out and buy other stuff. I've bought a crown-shaped bed for my dog, as you do. But I bought that on Messenger.
It's got a shark bed, it's fine.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure the cat will use it more than the dog, because the cat rules the roost. But I bought that yesterday off through Facebook. So there's no reason why she can't send me a message with a link to her reviews, and you can share that link with the link to the reviews saying, would you mind reviewing me? And if she sends me that, I'll happily do it, not a problem at all, because she was great. You know, she's done me a deal on postage. She got a discount on it. She was really efficient in getting the information to me and a PayPal link and all that kind of stuff. So there's no reason why I wouldn't be happy to review her.
Okay. Just on that, there's a really honest question that's come through from Trevor, and it just came through a few minutes ago. Okay. If you ask your customers for photos of your products or examples of befores and afters, but the quality of the photo isn't very good, or you feel it doesn't represent your brand look and feel, do you have to be worried that a customer is going to feel upset that you've not used it? And if you're asked, and I suppose to follow on to that, if you're asking people for pictures, how do you manage that? Do you have to stick to your brand ethos, or do you think there's some flexibility in showing how customers are using that in their own environment?
I think there's a little bit of both, to be honest with you. One of the ways around it is to say that you'll always pick 5 a month or 3 a month or 2 a month. So pick the ones that are a better quality within that. Or, you know, if you're doing it, you know, we always pick 1 or 2 a year, or whatever that is, depending on obviously how busy you are or what kind of business model you've got. So I think it's a little bit of both. So I would say make sure that you have that kind of caveat in place, that we can't showcase everybody's, but we will showcase, you know, 3 or 4, or we will pick them at random, or even kind of incentivize it in terms of, you know, the best one will get X. If somebody sends you something through that is a great use of the product, but the image itself just isn't good enough for you to be able to put on your website, then I would be honest about that and go back to them and say to them, thank you so much for this. Unfortunately, the quality of the photo isn't high enough for me to do it. If you wanted to do this again for me, this is the quality that we need. Equally, put that as a part of your caveat right at the start. So if people are submitting photos, they need to be, you know, really good quality so that we can reuse them, and just let people know that. Make sure that it's included as part of your page somewhere. Make sure that it's on your website or something similar. But again, even if the photo is maybe a little bit blurry, as long as it's not really, really bad, if it's showing somebody what it's like in their house, what it's like, those before and after shots, and you can still see the before and after clearly, but the image is a little bit fuzzy, it's real life. It's kind of one of the things that you sign up to in terms of user-generated content. But if it's really bad and you can't make out the product, you can't make out colours very well because the lighting isn't right, and that's not going to help you or help your customers, then politely decline it and just explain why. Most people will be more than happy to either redo it or to accept the fact that they didn't do it with a good enough image.
Yeah, great. So I think this might test your knowledge on Shopify, but I'm going to ask, is there a way of integrating reviews onto your website automatically? So if a link is sent to the customer and they review, is there a way of just having that instantly show on your website? And actually, to follow on to that, do you think it's a good idea to have those auto comments go straight onto your website?
One, I don't know. I'm not a Shopify expert, unfortunately. They are normally, there are things that you can build into it. So for example, on WordPress, you can, there are plugins that will do that for you. In terms of automated, the downside with that is obviously if you get negative ones. So the downside with the automation, if it just appears and you have no kind of say in whether or not it goes up, then potentially you're opening yourself to a negative review. Now, negative reviews aren't necessarily a bad thing if you're seen to respond to it, but if you can't see the response as part of that, then that's obviously not going to be a great thing. But in terms of the technicals behind Shopify, Shopify isn't something that I'm overly familiar with, or not to that level.
That's fine. I thought I'd ask. I think it's interesting around the reason I wanted to ask that is around the importance of actually monitoring what goes onto your website straight away, and you should have definitely something that sits in the middle. Right. Another interesting question here. So say if somebody buys your product and shares your product on Instagram and people comment on it, what should you do? Should you comment on each person or just click the love button?
So if this, so if somebody else has created content about your product and loads of people are commenting.
So say, for example, if a customer goes, they love your product, and I do this all the time. My cat's shark bed's a good example. I tag that person in it all the time. I'll post it up and I'll say, you know, Pumpkin loves her bed, tag the person. If people then comment, should you, as the owner of that product that your customer's using, should you comment on that post to each person or just click the love button of everybody who's commenting on it?
You don't have to reply to everybody. You definitely need to put a comment on there to say thank you to the person who's done it. Yeah, absolutely. So one definite reply. If other people are asking questions or, oh, where's that from? That's amazing. Those kinds of things, then definitely reply. And to some degree, it depends on it is. If somebody has 1 or 2 comments, then there's kind of no reason why you can't get involved in that conversation. If somebody's tagged you, they're opening that up. It's a little bit like saying, oi, you come and talk to us. Yeah, so if somebody's tagged you, that's kind of acceptable, but there's no reason why you have to do that for everybody. So yes, love the comment. Definitely reply yourself on there to say, oh, thank you so much. we've got new ones coming in, or something similar to that. We've got lots of other new designs on the website. Have you checked it out recently? Whatever that is, you can kind of have that kind of conversation, but you don't have to get involved in every single comment. But if somebody's asking for more information, where's it from, or I'd love one of those, then reply. Fab.
Now, you mentioned the influencer word, and naturally we've had a few questions on influencers come through. I'm just going to tackle the first one though. Vivian posted a question up again. She said, is it okay to hashtag famous people that would like to wear your products? And does that apply to fashion editors? What would be your rule of thumb on hashtagging people?
It's a really tricky one. Because it would depend on how it kind of depends on who it is that you're trying to contact, who it is you're trying to collaborate, and to some degree how big they are. So if you were to hashtag one of the Kardashians, for example, is there really any point? Probably not. They have people who they collaborate with, they have people who they work with, they have an agency who deals with that kind of thing for them. If it's somebody who's somebody like a journalist, for example, like your fashion editors, those kinds of things, what I would normally say is if you want to gain their attention, look to see where they're hanging out more. Now, with a lot of fashion editors, journalists, that kind of industry, then Twitter is a really good place to go for them. So I would have a look at their profile on Twitter. I'd have a look and see what they say about approach. So they may have a certain hashtag that they ask you to use to highlight certain products or to highlight certain services. They may talk about those things. And what I would also be looking for, I'd also be looking at, is things like hashtag journo request. So not so much on Instagram, but definitely on Twitter, which hashtag journo request is journo, J-O-U-R-N-O request, or one word. I always struggle with the journo unless I'm writing it down. But if you do a search for that on a regular basis on Twitter, there's loads of people there who are looking for articles to work with random subjects, random niches. People are looking there's all kinds of things that are happening on there all the time. I was shortlisted on the back of a conversation I had on there from a weight loss thing, but the article didn't run in the end. I lost 4 stone a couple of years ago. So I was shortlisted, but as I said, the article never went ahead. I was also interviewed on BBC News as part of a subject, a very small little piece on large families. At the time, I had 4 children and 3 stepchildren, and illnesses. We were never ill, but they were kind of trying to say that it causes lots of illnesses, but mine weren't, because they were exposed to everything from a really young age and they didn't get it. We didn't have time for anybody to be able to be honest either. But at the time I had 4 children, 3 stepchildren, so I was interviewed for that. So there are all kinds of different things on there, but I would definitely look and see, and a lot of the journalists and fashion journalists are hanging out on Twitter, have a look and see what they've said about being open to certain things. And equally on Instagram, have a look at their profile. Have they got something on there that would suggest they are open for that kind of contact? If it's smaller businesses, yes. Smaller potential collaborations, yes. But for once you go past a certain size, I would say you probably need to look at it through more official channels.
Okay, great. And that leads us on to the next question, which has come up in a few different vises, which how would you go about choosing an influencer for a brand to work with? I know we talk all the time, and people with the most followings aren't always the best ones to approach.
No, definitely not. The people to approach more than anyone else is the people who have the same audience as you, or potentially the same audience as you. So there is no point working with an influencer if that audience isn't aligned, because that audience will not be attracted to your products no matter how much that particular influencer is. You'll always gain some interest, but actually what you'll end up doing is potentially spending money or potentially providing products for something that just doesn't work for you. So what I would normally say in terms of influencers is be careful who you pick, and the first thing should always be your audience or a connected audience. And if somebody contacts you and says, I'd really like to work with you, it can be really flattering and kind of thinking, oh my God, they've got 50,000 followers. Oh my God, this is going to be amazing. But actually, if their audience isn't the right audience for you, it will be a complete waste of your time, effort, and potentially money. So always start with their audience. If you approach somebody and there's a potential, ask them to give you audience demographics, ask them to provide that. They should be able to provide that as part of that relationship. And equally, if you're contacted by somebody or there's somebody that you would quite like to work with, have a look and see who they've worked with in the past. Does that look like it was successful for them? And again, with influencers, if you get to the stage where you're actually negotiating with somebody and you've made a contact with them, ask who they've worked with in the past and if you can talk to them. because you're going to want to do your research in terms of the amount of time you can invest in it, what products you want to invest in it, or if there's a fee involved, how much that fee is going to be. And you need to tick all of those boxes first. So are your audience aligned? Who have they worked with in the past? Make sure you do research in terms of all of their content. Look back over their content for the last 6 months at least. What kind of content are they talking about? How are they talking about things that have happened in the last 6 months? Are they definitely somebody that you want to be aligned with?
Okay, great. And one last question. I know just because we had a few comments, these sessions are available to watch again. So we'll send you the on-demand links at some point this afternoon. And added to that, we have some more sessions that we're releasing with Social Bee. So keep an eye out for that email so you can register for the following up sessions. And this is a question that we have actually got a entire session about in a few weeks. But Amy, we've got a question from Katie. She said she's a startup online retail business selling home and giftware. At the moment, she only has an Instagram account, which is about to go live. Are there any other social media platforms that she would suggest that she absolutely should be on where she can share products? I'm imagining Facebook would be an answer. Yeah, Pinterest.
Pinterest would be my preferred one over Facebook even, depending a little bit on the demographic, but I would definitely look at Pinterest, particularly for homewares and accessories. Pinterest is where a fairly affluent 83% female audience go for inspiration, discovery. It's a search engine as much as it is anything else. So Facebook is great for kind of your VIP type groups. There's a couple of businesses, and I think I showcased them, if not the last, I think it might have been the first one that I did for Hive over the last couple of weeks, if that's available to her, where there was a couple of examples that I picked from there. So there was I can't for the life of me remember her name now, but there's a woman on Facebook who has a VIP group, and she uses that group to showcase new products, new items coming in, those kinds of like making them feel really special. There's another company who I've been following recently who had she's just a young girl who started up her own first business. She got premises and then went into lockdown. So she's doing like home parties through Facebook. So they're great for those kinds of things. But for product discovery, for product sales, I would say Pinterest.
Yeah, and I'm right in thinking Pinterest is actually incredibly good for SEO as well, to link back to websites.
Yeah,
it's one of the better. Yeah,
it's
Pinterest probably.
Good.
Yeah,
it's discovery. It's all about discovery.
And definitely not worth forgetting about. Well, we'll make all the links available. They're still available. You'll get an email from us with all of the replay links. So do go back and watch that first session with Amy, and we'll send you some links for future registrations. But thank you so much, Amy, for your time. I know our audience definitely have found that useful.
You're welcome.
Thank you. See you. Bye.
Bye.